Hello, sweet parents. Welcome to the When Our Adult Children Walk Away podcast. My name is Dr. Janet Steinkamp, and during each episode of When Our Adult Children Walk Away, I will provide my professional and personal insights, information and opportunities for your self-reflection and growth, tips and tricks to make every day count, and encouragement to keep moving forward. I'm here to help you dig deep and get down to the root causes so that you can find your way out of the darkness to a positive and lasting relationship. Grab your notebook and a pen, settle into your favorite chair, and let's get to it. In this episode, we are going to look at what we call high-risk days. High-risk days. You hear that term a lot when we're talking about how to navigate an estranged relationship. So this could be true for a relationship that's anywhere on the continuum of estrangement. It may mean that you go to a family event and you know your adult child's not going to look you in the eye, will avoid you, and other people around are a little bit on pins and needles because they want to know that there's not going to be any drama. Or they might be looking for drama, and that's not helpful too because we don't want to get egged on into a dramatic interaction with our adult child. Let's talk about these high-risk days and how they're different from regular days. Every day is painful when we have estrangement in our lives. Every day is altered and different and has challenges in it. Some days you don't want to get out of bed. Sometimes you can't even think about the next breath. And some days you're able to put it on a shelf and get through the day with some level of satisfaction. People, it is okay to have a good day. It is okay to laugh, to think something's funny, to notice how beautiful the flowers are in the spring. It is okay to feel okay. I know the struggle between the hurt and the pain and the loss and the confusion and letting yourself have a moment of pleasure, happiness, finding something funny. It's important that we do those things to keep the tough times in check, right? We don't want to catastrophize. There's a great episode out there. I think it's great. Go out and listen to that episode. I think it might be helpful to you. So what is a high-risk day? High-risk days are things like regular holidays. That's why I'm putting this out now, because we have our spring holidays coming. We talk a lot about this in the fall before the winter holidays. But in the spring, we have some pretty key holidays, right? We have Easter, big family day if you celebrate Easter. There are some other religious celebrations in the spring. There are some cultural celebrations that come up that are very family-based that are going to be difficult or high-risk days. We have Mother's Day, Father's Day, big trigger days. Birthdays, both ours and the adult child's or our grandchildren's. Any family gathering can be difficult. A funeral, a wedding, a baptism, a retirement. Anytime the family comes together, friends and family, it can be a high-risk day, especially when they are public family celebrations. So friends or acquaintances or other people's friends are also present. Times of major life transitions. Like I said, retirement. Maybe somebody's going out to college. Somebody's going on mission. Maybe somebody is going to travel the world with some kind of a social services group. They might be quiet days of reflection. They might be days when it's a sober moment, not a group necessarily, but a sober moment in your life. Maybe it's the anniversary of the death of one of your parents, or the anniversary of a divorce, or the death of a loved one. These quiet days of reflection and remembrance can be really high-risk days. These days are considered high risk because they trigger deeper grief. They trigger our grief and accentuate the longing for our missing adult child. And again, anywhere on the continuum of estrangement, anywhere. Once the relationship is changed, our adult children start to pull away. They start to become angry at us. The patterns and celebrations and rituals change. There is grief and loss in that. And so these times can be, usually are, high risk. They're high risk because we get triggered and we are more vulnerable to reacting instead of responding. We are at greater risk for not using our new learned behaviors and our new self-reflection. We resort to or defer to old behavioral patterns, the patterns that our adult children have complained about, pointed out to us, they've been hurt by. And so we need to keep those at the forefront, especially on high-risk days. We consider days to be high risk when they highlight the exclusion or the isolation we feel from the rest of our family and friends, our workplace, the world. So many people out there think that they are the only person with an estranged child. Do you know there's well over 68 million people just in this country experiencing some degree of estrangement? 68 million. 25% of our population. So anytime you're in a grocery store, think about that. 25% of the people in that grocery store with you are walking through an estrangement. 25% of the people sitting in your faith-based worship group are experiencing an estrangement. People at work. We just don't talk about it. We don't share it. So know that you're not alone. And on these high-risk days, you can feel even more isolated. And it feels like sometimes a spotlight is showing down on you because your adult child is the one not in the room. If it's a family gathering and it includes some sort of meal or celebration around food, it means your adult child is the one missing at the table. Or your adult child is at the table but not speaking to you, and everyone else in that room is probably aware. Even if you think they aren't, they probably know. And so you feel like the glare is just blinding, and you don't need to, because there are other people sitting in that room that are either 1 or 2 degrees away from an estrangement. So take consolation in knowing you're not alone. However, this creates high-risk moments and high-risk days. So I'm going to do a series of podcast episodes on how to deal with these high-risk days. There will be topics such as how to respond to people that you don't know well, but are in these events who ask about your adult children. How do you respond to them? What is an appropriate and honest, because we want to feel honest, so we're not hiding secrets in dark places. How do we respond in a way that's appropriate and honest and doesn't make us any more vulnerable to judgment or the chatter? How do we respond when it's a family member who asks? When it's somebody who's genuinely involved in and impacted by the estrangement, how do we respond to that? How do we say no to a major event if we just feel like it's too high risk and we can't handle it right now? How do we say no in a way that's diplomatic, appropriate, and doesn't put weight on other people? We have to remember that in the background, our adult child hears things just like we do. And what we want them to hear is that we are changing our behavior. We're holding ourselves accountable. We are sorry for the things that we did that contributed to their hurt and their pain. And those whispers, I call them wisps of smoke, that get back to our adult children, start planting those seeds of trust. That is how our adult children learn most often that we are making these initial changes, and they begin to listen differently. Let's shift gears a little bit here. I want to talk about why it's important that we recognize our high-risk days and why we have a plan. Why do you hear people talk about, do you have a plan? What's your plan to get through? What are you going to do differently? Are you ready? It's important because we need to pay attention to our level of emotional regulation. Are we in control of our emotions? And under most circumstances, we are. It's the trigger days that are different. That's why we need to make sure we have a plan. So how do we get ready? How do we get ready for these days? Well, we start thinking about setting boundaries. What are the boundaries? Okay, I'm going to go to the family event, but maybe for a couple hours this year instead of 7 hours. We start learning about emotional spirals and how to avoid them. How do we know the red flag of an emotional spiral? How do we see it coming? How do we recognize it? And then how do we accommodate it so we don't go down the black hole? We can have a plan to ensure that we reduce our loneliness and isolation. We can create in that plan coping mechanisms to maintain a sense of control and over the messaging, what other people are saying. Again, we have to remember that our adult children are out there listening and people are saying things about them. It took me a long time to recognize the fact that the more I complained about my daughter and her decision to step away, the more I was complaining about my daughter. And it was much more effective for everyone when I found a way to be constructive and to talk about the situation in a way that didn't point fingers, it wasn't blaming, it wasn't angry, it didn't put my daughter in a tough spot should she decide to come back. I didn't know at the time if they'd reconnect. Your adult children will have to walk back into your circumstances. They need to do it with as much safety and security and with their head held high. So we don't want to do anything that makes that more difficult when we try to reconnect. Having a plan to manage high-risk days creates some kind of a fence around loneliness and isolation, gives us more of a sense of control. It helps us create new traditions. The old traditions were not working in some way or aren't working now in some way. I am a huge proponent of going on vacation. So if an event is coming up, people are coming to town that it's going to be difficult, or you can see those things coming, go on vacation. Legitimate vacation. Go someplace you've always wanted to go. People can't question it because it's someplace you always wanted to go. And it's a legitimate vacation. It's the timing that might serve you better and frankly might serve your adult child better. Give them space to be with other people that are in common to you and do that in a way that doesn't feel like they're waiting for you to walk around a corner, right? You get rid of all that. You take care of that for you and your adult child. And then minimize opportunities for conflict. If you know you're going to an event where your adult child is going to be present, and it's likely that they may come at you publicly with anger and some sort of emotional explosion. Remember, these are also trigger events for them. So if you're concerned they're going to be triggered, then you need some strategies around that to minimize the opportunity for conflict. All of this work that we do around these high-risk days is to ensure that our opportunity to reconnect, to reestablish lines of communication, and ensure long-term healing when we have an opportunity to reconnect. We're strengthening that opportunity. We're making sure, protecting, reducing the threat to the ability to reconnect and extend the long-term healing. And really, we're taking care of ourselves. We are making sure that we are not exposed to any more trauma ourselves. I mean, the estrangement is a trauma all by itself. And there is PTSD involved in the trauma of estrangement. And there are long-term ongoing hurts that we feel, the injury. So we want to reduce that harm, and we want to strengthen ourselves and our reserves and ensure that there's less negative impact on our potential to reconnect and reestablish healthy, respectful communication for the long term. Okay, so watch for this series of podcast episodes on this topic. Some of them might sound redundant to you. My goal is to make each one a helpful podcast related to the topic of high-risk days. They'll be shorter, they'll be more topic-specific, and I think they will be helpful to you. That's my goal. So please do listen in. I love when you come to these podcasts and leave me comments. Send me an email, janet@jesteinkamp.com. I want to hear your comments. I want to hear your questions. I want you to challenge me. I want you to question what I've said. And if you hear things that sound contradicting, point them out. That's how I learn and get better at what I do. And that's important for all of you. So we're all in this together. You are not alone. And I want you to be brave in all of this. Take this to heart. Make sure you find some joy in life. And I want you to find a way to have a good day on occasion. Put this on a shelf for a minute and enjoy your life. We each get one. And you get to choose how you live your life in this very difficult time. So thanks again for listening, and I'll look for you in one of our classes this spring. We're going to have ongoing classes depending on the topic and the interest that we hear from people. So take care, and I will look for you to tune into the next episode. Thanks so much.